Hello, hello, hello. Going to a minute or two, but we are going to start promptly, 6 p.m. on the East Coast. Hope you all like our custom Crossbeam mug. Okay, we are going to get started soon. Welcome, welcome. Say hello in the chat. If this were an actual room, we would say hello and I would know who you are. That'd be great. All right, we are 6:01. We're officially in the starting time. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. I know on the East Coast, it's slightly after working hours, and on the West Coast, you're probably in that afternoon slump. Hope you have a time zone appropriate beverage, no matter where you are. And we're gonna go quickly here. This should be 30 minutes tops, and I'm trying to make it as actionable and concise as possible. We have a whole bunch of articles. We have an ebook that a lot of this is based off of that you can totally read and research further. Questions, please put in the chat. Otherwise, hello, I'm Sean Blanda. I'm coming to you from rainy Philadelphia. Our producer, Jasmine Jenkins, is in sunny Tampa, and she won't hesitate to let me know. I hope you get everything you want out of this chat or out of this webinar, and please, specific KPI, specific questions, put in the chat. I know every partner program is different, so sometimes we can generalize a little bit, and if I can give you an answer specific to your situation, I'd love to. But let's get started. So this is the schedule. We're gonna go real quick, just who we are, and we being Crossbeam, and then why are KPIs important. Hint, it has to do with money and comp. And then we'll go to the 4 KPI learnings, and that's where we'll get to the meat of this. About the what to what measure and when at different stages of your company's size, and then Q&A, answer as many questions as I can, and that'll conclude the official part of this. But if you'd like to stick around, I want to give you a sneak preview about something we're working on that we call the SaaS Partner Program Maturity Curve, where we are attempting to map out your standard journey for building a partner program. As we know, there's not a roadmap for this stuff. It's often hard to find. One thing we are trying to do is attempting to build that, and I can show you a little bit of the beta of what we're working on if you want to stay. But let's get to who we are. We are Crossbeam. We are a partner ecosystem platform, and we enable companies to find overlapping customers and prospects with their partners, all while keeping the rest of their data private and secure. This is a Venn diagram, but what does the thing actually look like? This is the actual product. This is an example of someone running a reports for intro request options with their partner. Mapping their opportunities with their partners' customers in Crossbeam, seeing where the overlaps are, and asking for an introduction. People use this for co-marketing, co-selling, sourcing leads, ensuring integration success, avoiding channel conflict, any part of the partnership and sales funnel. And then that Crossbeam data is often mapped to a bunch of different places, whether that is a Salesforce app, email. Just today, we were one of the launch partners for the new Slack Connect functionality. Jasmine, if you could put a link to that in the chat. If you're a Crossbeam customer, it's free. And if you're not a Crossbeam customer, you can sign up for a free Crossbeam account and use the Slack Connect app, the Slack app. Sorry, the Crossbeam app for Slack. All right, so this KPI data I'm about to share is from this survey. The State of the Partner Ecosystem, we released it in January. The survey was conducted from November 2020 to December 2020. There were 173 respondents. 98% work in B2B. So there's a few call outs here about the source of this data that may skew it and may be different from your own situation. 98% work in B2B, 79% are ISV or a SaaS company, and then 72% work at companies 100 employees or more. So we kind of skew a little bit more to the larger side. And you'll see there's a lot of data here by company size. So keep in mind, we got more respondents on the bigger size of a company. But let's get into the meat of it. Why are KPIs important? The short answer is comp, and the long answer is focus. This chart may take a sec to digest, but I think it's important to realize. The top says, what percentage of your compensation is directly tied to KPIs? So it's a survey question we asked people as part of that report I just showed you. And then on the far left is the amount of their compensation tied to KPIs. And that red number is the percentage of respondents who answered that. So you can see only 22% of respondents said their comp had no tie to KPIs. So this tells us that hitting our KPIs means greater compensation. And that's for us on the personal level for sure. But I think it also shows that KPIs are so important to the organization that that's how they comp you. So it is a nightmare to not be driving your KPIs, or worse, it is a nightmare to not be driving the correct KPI. You know, what if you're not even asked for and measured against the proper KPI? You'll be spinning in circles, and that will affect not only your happiness, but your compensation. All right, so these are the 4 learnings which I think can help influence what KPIs to measure and when. This is the meat of this presentation, and I hope any questions in the chat, I'm keeping an eye, happy to answer. These are the 4 key learnings. We're going to review the most commonly used KPI, and in fact, if you have a guess, I would love for you to put it in the chat. Learning number 2, KPIs have turning points. There are moments where KPIs and the expectations get higher. You're asked to drive more money, more leads, more whatever the KPI is. We'll talk about a few of those, give you a little sneak preview, so you can kind of benchmark your own. Learning 3, KPIs have seasons. So there are stages in your company when certain KPIs are more important. And then learning number 4, we're gonna like zoom out and take a look at all of it. We're gonna look at the collection of KPIs by company size that people are measured by. So not just the most common, but the second most common, the third most common. And this is probably the most interesting part of this, where you can take your company size and just go down this chart we made and go, okay, most people measure by this or not by this, and get a feel for the thing you should be measuring. All right. So when I keep saying the word KPIs, I've said it 10,000 times already. What are those KPIs? So we asked our respondents, are you measured by any of these 6 KPIs? And these are the 6. Breeze through these very quickly. Most of these are self-explanatory. Total new partnerships does what it says on the tin. New partnerships closed. We didn't discern which kinds of partnerships, just new partnerships. Are you measured by that? Net new leads, so leads generated by partners. It's the amount of new accounts your partner generates. Number of opportunities influenced and sourced, so the opportunities that your partner indirectly or directly affects and brings in. And the same thing for revenue, the revenue that your partner or partner program indirectly or directly brought in. One way that sourced has been explained to me that maybe you drive with, which is it is totally new. If the partnership didn't exist, the partner program didn't exist, that opportunity or that revenue would not have come in. So these are the 6. And if you'll notice, they're roughly in the order of the funnel, right? From just partnership existing to closing the revenue. So we'll be the first to acknowledge that people call these different things. Nomenclature is really weird. The exact terminology people use can vary, but these are the phrases we used in this survey itself. So the most common is partner sourced, AKA direct attribution. This shouldn't be that much of a surprise, right? This is the thing that gets you more influence, more headcount. This enables you to influence marketing and get a seat at the table. When you're driving measurable revenue, you're gonna get more stuff. So as your partner program matures, this will increasingly be an expectation. You can see in this chart, this is the exact source revenue that people are expected to drive by company size. So to read the chart, if you are a company size 0 to 9, you are just under $500,000. That dips a little bit before spiking dramatically at 250. So I would love for you to take a look at that 250. That is when it gets serious, when the expectations for driving direct revenue become clear, and it is what, 3 to 3.5 times X the previous stage before it. If you are at a company that is 250 or above, this should be a very real pressure on you. And maybe you're watching this and nodding like, yep, this is how I live. Or if not, I'm curious why. We'll show this later, but this KPI is typically introduced at the 100 employee mark. So there's a little bit of a gap. This KPI is introduced at the 100 employee mark, but the expectations really take off at the 250 mark. Our hypothesis there is you need a product market fit and solid attribution to do this, and that requires some resources, and most companies larger than 250 employees have them. So the takeaway, partner source revenue is the most common. It kicks in at around the 250 employee mark in a serious way. 63% of respondents measure this. And I'm sure maybe if you're seeing this and you're saying, but Sean, we don't have the systems for that yet. What should we measure instead? We'll get to that. Learning number 2, KPIs have turning points. So much like we saw partner source revenue spiking at 250 employees, each one of these ebbs and flows depending on the employee count. We won't have time to look at all of them. If you want to look at a similar chart as before, it's in that report. Jasmine, if you could drop the link to that State of the Partner Ecosystem report. But let's look at 2 of these. So there's net new leads and partner influence revenue as a little preview. But again, all 6 of these are in the report if you want to get really granular with the exact measurements people are being held to. Sorry, I see in the chat, is there any delineation between partner type? No. When we ask people for total new partnerships, that's literally the phrase we ask. In the report, we ask people, what kinds of partnerships are you measuring? What kind of programs do you have? Do you have integration? Do you have strategic? Do you have tech? And you can kind of see the breakdown in there. And that'll help you inform what the respondents are thinking of when they said new partnerships, but that's a great question. So again, look at net new leads and partner influenced revenue. These are net new leads. This, while partner source revenue really kicked up at 250, this one is a little earlier, 100. 55% of employee respondents are measured by net new leads. The expectation to drive new leads comes in fast and furious at 100 employees. And it's worth thinking about why. We have a hypothesis, interested in your takes, but we think leads are a precursor to opportunities or revenue, and it's the most basic thing to measure, right? Leads. And I think it's the first KPI often levied on a partnership team. So I think that we found, and we'll get to this too, oftentimes the first hire of a partnership program is a partnership leader. And they are often bringing in strategic, less is more. They don't have all the hours in the day. They don't have a whole team. They really have to pick their spots. And that's why we think this number is really low. A company's still trying to get its footing, its product market fit. At around 100 employees, we find a lot of the ecosystem ops, the partnership workflows change. Something happens at 100 employees where the expectations rise, the revenue expectations start to creep in, and you can see it with this leads demand. The leads skyrocket quarterly. People are expected to bring 600 after less than 100. It's a drastic and sudden and measurable change. And I think it's also the start of your journey where you can start to pour leads into the top of the funnel and reasonably expect revenue. I'm sure if you worked at a startup with 10 employees, you're still figuring lots of things out. Someone could dump a bunch of leads into your lab and maybe you wouldn't even know what to do with it because you're still figuring out the sales motions, the partnership motions, whether the product even works, integrations, APIs, depending on the partnership type you're doing. It's just too immature to really act on this stuff. So again, takeaway, lead KPIs are really low until the 100 employee mark. Let's look at partner influence revenue. 55% also measure this by coincidence. So we already saw partner sourced. This is partner influenced. You'll notice it's 250. That's when the amount in demand spikes. Leads spiked at 100. This spiked at 250. So again, a common refrain you will hear me say is the larger the company, the further down the funnel the KPI is. again, if you get one thing from this, you want to etch it in a notepad right now. The larger the company, the further down the funnel the KPI is. I want to reinforce this in a bunch of different ways. Again, we have charts like this for every single KPI in that report. If you want to take a closer look at all the KPIs, and also I am Sean at crossbeam.com if you have any questions and you read the report and something doesn't seem right, or you have a comment, or you can need some clarification. Okay, let's look at learning number 3. KPIs have seasons. So we looked at when the actual KPI spiked, but let's look at when that KPI is most used. So again, we looked at when the demand for leads or the demand for partner source revenue spiked. Let's look at when it's just in use more, regardless of what the actual measurement is. This might take a sec. The top on the teal bar, that Crossbeam blue, is company size. So a company the size of 0 to 9, 10 to 49. Below that is the most common KPI for that company size. Most commonly measured KPI for that company size. And then the teal number before that, under that, is the percentage of companies at that size that measure that KPI. So this takes a sec to digest, but you should maybe see a trend emerge that's true to what I said before, which is the larger your company is, the further down the funnel the KPIs are. Now, I want to admit, KPIs can depend on your business model, partnership types. There's some variables here. We acknowledge this can get a little fuzzy, but we think when we zoom out to this level, it kind of gets rid of a lot of the noise and it gets clear that when you're in early days, you're just looking for partnerships created. Then you move to just getting leads. Then you move to partner influenced. Then you move to partner sourced, and partner source is there to stay. This was probably, of all the KPI findings, the one that surprised us, but also delighted us. Just that the maturity of a partnership program, the maturity of the KPIs being measured, reflect the maturity of the organization, which is good, right? If these things were deviating, it would draw some doubt of whether the partnership program was pulling its weight. But this wouldn't happen if people weren't driving actual revenue. Okay, I'm seeing all these questions come in. We have a Q&A section, and I'll go through them afterwards. Real quick, let me pull this up. Awesome. Okay. So this takes us to our 4th and probably most useful chart for planning your KPIs. We call it the heat map, right? So this is the most common, but what about all of them? What are all the KPIs measured? What is the likelihood of any KPI being measured at a specific stage? This is the biggest zoom out we can possibly give with KPIs, right? So it's so in flux, we had to just take the Excel screenshot. On the top, company size, 0 to 9, 10 to 49. On the left, the KPI. You can match the KPI to the company size and see what percentage of companies use that KPI. Just answer some questions while you guys look at this. Partner source revenue is pipeline closed 1. Sorry, partner source is closed 1. Yes. We asked for opportunities. You can see here, number of opportunities influenced by partners, number of opportunities sourced. That's higher up. That's yet to be closed. How folks incentivize, influence, and source. We didn't ask about how they drive that KPI. That's actually something we're working on in future content, but that's a good observation. Depending on the KPI you're targeting, right, you'll want to employ different tactics. See what else is there in delineation between partner type. Got that. Number 1 KPI. Okay. Please keep the questions coming. Ones I can't answer, I have your name. I promise I will follow up afterwards. So this is the heat map where you can see the most commonly used KPI to the company size. Again, the one takeaway I want you to get from this is the larger the company, the further down the funnel the KPI being measured. On the left, they're pretty much arranged from funnel order. So you can kind of see it take a trajectory where the green starts to cluster in the bottom right. The bigger the company, the more partner source revenue is important, except one thing we can't explain, that 50 to 500 to 999, definitely everything takes a dip. It's like everything gets thrown into chaos before being solidified at the 1,000 mark. I'm curious if you have any theories about what that is. Some other things you should know, the new partnerships metric KPI fades very quickly after 0 to 9, so people toss that aside. Our guess is if you're working in partnerships and your company is 0 to 9, you're probably on the executive team, you're probably a founding team, you're probably on the C-suite. You're just trying to do some strategic deals that enable whatever product you're making. And then the other thing to notice is at the 1,000 plus, that number, that split between partner influence and partner source gets wide. It's as if at that point, the systems, the attribution are in place, where influence isn't good enough anymore. We need direct attribution, we need sourced. Can I explain the colors? Yes. So green is higher, and it goes down from orange is lowest, and in the middle is yellow. So the heat map you can look is green, right, is where they're most common. So hopefully it trains your eye to see the clusters of KPIs that are more common. Yeah, again, this is another question. Why does 500 to 999 dip down? This is one that keeps me up. It stops this model from being perfect and linear. We don't know. We wonder if it's when people start introducing more complicated channel programs and then things get a little messy. That's a guess. I don't know that. I'd be curious what you guys think. Okay. Please ask any more Q&A. We'll have time for Q&A in a sec. Just want to go over again the key learnings. One, the most commonly used KPI is partner sourced revenue. Learning two, KPIs have turning points. There are points where the quotas, the leads, the revenue expected just spikes according to company size. All that information is in the State of the Partner Ecosystem report, which I will place in the chat right now. I'm doing that. Boom. You can download that. We have all those charts about when it's measured quarterly in US dollars. It's one of the kind of easiest kind of audit things you can do is look at the company that's your size, look at the KPI that's being measured, and then see where you fit in. You can also get a better sense of the demographics of the people who answered this survey to make sure they're better aligned with you when it comes to the types of partner programs they have. Learner three, KPIs have seasons. There are parts in a company's growth where KPIs are more common. And learning number four, maturity phases have distinct cocktails of KPIs. But the overwhelming learning is the larger your company, the more down funnel your KPIs are. So if you're at a massive company and you're still measuring stuff at the top of the funnel, maybe you're not impacting the business as much as your peers. Again, big caveat, I know every partner program is different, every company is different, every product's different, but as a rule of thumb, it's something we're seeing over and over again. Someone commented the KPI dip at the higher level. So this guy right here, bloop, bloop. Nate said, I'm guessing the KPI dip at the higher level is the increase in segmentation of sellers and going international. Yeah, right. So you start introducing some complexity, maybe things get a little messy before cleaning up again, because you can't really hit that escape velocity to 1,000 until you shore that stuff up. I think that's real. Okay, those are the learnings. Again, all this stuff is in this report, which the link is in there. You can page through at your own leisure with a beverage of your choice. Otherwise, I would love to, I'll give a few seconds for any additional questions. I'm staring at the question module. And then I'll tackle them. And then we'll get into the sneak preview aspect of this partnership maturity curve we're working on. If you're curious, we'd love your feedback. Some questions are already starting to come in. Can you define seasons? Yes, what I was meaning about seasons is really company size. I'm trying to be literary and clever, but what I really mean is at different company sizes, certain KPIs are more typical, right? So it's probably, looking at, I think this is the way to think about it, right? At different company size, different ones become more common. And if you want to get the detailed view, it's this. right? You can kind of see how some of these ebb and flow depending on company size. Right, like partner source gets just far more common as you go with this mystery box right here. As we said, I don't quite know why this gets a little less common, but it's clear that it all of a sudden at 100, at 250, and 1,000. I also find it interesting that the leads kind of spike here, the demand for leads before falling off too. That's the other thing I'm wondering about. What else? I'll love your thoughts. Any other questions? No, season, yeah, okay, yeah, you got me. Tom asked that question about seasons. Cool. If there's no other questions, keep putting in here. I'm gonna stick around for 5 more minutes. But for when it comes to this KPI, the what to measure and when, that's the bulk of it. That's the core. And if you wanna leave now, we appreciate you coming. But if you want to stay, I'll give you a 5-minute preview of something we're working on, and just would love your candid feedback. It's a total beta, has a little bit to do with the KPIs. It's our partnership maturity curve, where we're trying to map the roadmap as someone grows a partnership program. What are the milestones they need to hit? What are the roles they hire in the right order? Just trying to really make the right order of operations as someone expands and grows not only their career, but their program. All right, we're going to sneak preview territory. So those of you still here, thank you for sticking around. This is what we're working on. It's the SaaS Partner Program Maturity. It's totally in beta. We're working on it. We're very early days, but we think we can start to sort people into 4 distinct phases of maturity, and we're calling them the Explorer stage, the Strategist stage, the Producer stage, and the Supernode stage. So they kind of do what they say on the tin, but broadly, Explorer, you're still finding fit, what kind of partnerships you should do, what kind of workflow makes sense, what integrations make sense, what ways of marketing your partnerships make sense. Strategist, you're kind of hitting on a few things. You're starting to test. You maybe have a few partnership motions that you're experimenting with. You're not positive that anything is working, but you're starting to see some results. Producer, you are seeing results, right? When it comes to KPIs, this is probably when the partner source revenue starts to kick in. You can start to get repeatable motions, repeatable cycles. You can start scaling. That's a big leap, right, from 2 to 3. And then Supernode, these are your HubSpots, your Salesforce, your Adobe's, these large companies, Microsoft's, driving substantial amounts of revenue as a result of the partnership program. So these are the 4 steps. One is 4 too few or 4 too many. Be interested in your thoughts. But let's look at what is in these steps. Broadly, broad strokes. This is kind of what we're thinking when it comes to KPIs. So we have the phase, the number of employees, typically, though not every role, typically in each phase, the KPI, most commonly used, and then the description of what that phase is. So if you look at this, KPI goes from managed by objectives, which is a little more loosey-goosey, to opportunity metrics, right? Things that aren't yet closed, but you're starting to fill things in the pipeline. Then it goes to driving actual revenue. And then it goes into more like SaaS efficiency metrics, ROI on partner programs, LTV on deals influenced by partners, right? Things that affect the broader business. So I would love to know, does this like jive with your general perception of partnership maturity? We are trying to take attributes like KPIs and map them to each 4 of these. So anyone can check in and go, I measure this, I'm about this big, okay, I'm about at this phase. That's the goal here. So curious if this makes sense, or if this feels ridiculous and totally out of touch with your experience, please let us know. One piece of feedback in my experience, KPIs are more cultural. Reporting to CEO, I don't see how a revenue pipeline is not a KPI from the early phases. It's totally fair. I guess it depends on what kind of partnerships too, right? Producer to Supernode feels like a big leap. Yeah, right. 250 to 999. Do we need another step in there? Right? Is there a phase where you have these repeatable steps but they're not quite working? Maybe they just should be 5 steps. Something we're thinking about. Okay, one more slide about the maturity curve. Another thing we're looking at are the roles hired by the phases. So broadly in the Explorer phase, you're a partner program leader. You're a one-man band, one-woman band. And then once you have repeatable, start to experiment with some partner motions, you maybe get a program manager or partner manager. Then Once you're able to scale those, you get operations and enablement and partner marketing. And then I think those roles relatively stay the same for the super node level. So again, these are classifications of roles, not roles themselves, and we are surely missing some. I would love to see, is your role or title not represented here? Let it drop in the questions or in the chat. Would love to see. But our goal is to map out all the different aspects that you think about every single day about how to grow and establish a partner program and map them to the right phase. So you not only know where you are, but how do you get to the next step? Something we're thinking a lot about. Okay, you were here for the sneak peek. Please drop any comments or questions. That's it. That's the whole webinar. I appreciate you guys sticking around. Those of you, the 30 some of you that stick around, thank you so much. If I didn't get to your question, I'm going to go review it afterwards, and I hope to follow up. We have your email address. Otherwise, thank you so much for taking part in this webinar, and I hope you guys have a great day.